Yes guys, what's good? So let's talk about bent over barbell rows and how these typically get butchered by most people, especially when they're new in the gym. It's not an exercise that you should be having a rounded back with. You see this a lot, people's back will be rounded, just trying to move the absolute maximum weight possible. Now there's two ways to do this. You can do this for sort of like really heavy compound style lifting in order to gain a lot of strength and help obviously lower back strength and erector strength, the muscles that run either side of your spine. Or you can do this on a Smith machine where you're completely fixed, so you can really work on that sort of hypertrophy work, the growing side of things, and keep a fixed movement so that you're literally only pulling with your back. There's no real stabilization muscles getting involved. Now, in the video, you see me doing a bent barbell row free weight. I prefer them free weight, so I like to be able to engage my core a lot more than with a Smith machine and actually fix myself in that position. I just find it more beneficial for myself. So you've got two choices to choose from. Today's demonstration is a free weight barbell. Now, key points to the free weight barbell bent over row is, number one, to get in that position, you have to hip hinge. Hip hinging is basically where you break at the hips and you send your ass backwards. Pushing your ass as if you're basically trying to sit on a chair behind you. Once your hip is fully hinged all the way backwards, you can then begin to descend with your spine, with your back, making sure that your shoulder blades are constantly retracted backwards, keeping that nice flat back. Now you want to be quite bent over. You don't want to be sort of, sort of at that sort of angle, because it's not really going to target where you're trying to target. It's obviously a really big sort of lat movement when you're doing a bent row properly. So you want to be targeting those lats as effectively and efficiently as possible. So you want to be bent over 90 degrees if you can, if you've got the mobility to do so. If not, work on the mobility. That's number one. Number two, if you can't quite get down to 90 degrees, you want to be as bent over as physically possible, but still being able to keep that nice flat back all the way through so your spine is neutral and in a safe position. Now, when pulling the bar, if you notice when I'm actually doing the exercise in the video, I'll revert back and put the other clip in as well. Repeat the clip. You'll notice that you should be able to see that my elbows are tucked in towards my side. So when I've got hold of the bar, I'm physically trying to bend the bar in order to keep my elbows in rather than have my elbows out. The further out your elbows are, you're probably going to target a lot more sort of upper back and rear delts. And you want to be rowing towards your hips. So when you're bent over in that sort of almost 90-degree position, you don't want to be pulling up towards midline or the top of your stomach. You actually want to be pulling in to the hips. The more towards the hips you pull, the more engagement you're going to get in that sort of lat area, the lower back, the lower outer back, and that's the area we're trying to target, guys. So make sure you're doing them properly. Don't overload the bar so that your form goes, because if your back isn't flat like this, nice and flat there, if your back ends up being sort of rounded over like so, we call it a fishing rod spine. Imagine a fisherman when he's caught a big fish. The rods tends to bend. This is not a good position for your back to be in. So make sure you've got enough weight on the bar that it's heavy, that you can fully contract, get the elbows back as far as possible, but make sure that you don't overcompensate that overcomplicate that, add too much weight and end up with a spine that looks like this, because then you're not pulling in the right areas for one. And again, like what we like to call snap city, you're eventually going to injure yourself, give yourself a muscle spasm, or potentially worse, you're going to end up damaging one of your discs in your spine. So make sure they're done properly, make sure they're done efficiently, and add intensity. Now, rep ranges, what I like to do with these is I like to keep these quite low in the reps so I can move as much weight as possible, again, staying in that nice safe form. So I keep my reps anywhere between sort of 6 to 8, nice and heavy. And then if I'm sort of deloading on a week where I'm not going that heavy because I'm just not feeling it, not on a really heavy day, some days we wake up and we're not feeling pulling massive weights, then I tend to go higher reps, but it's still not massively high. It's anywhere between 8 to 12 reps. So again, key points is the hips come back, you bend over to almost 90 degrees, keeping your spine in a nice flat neutral position, shoulder blades are back, and you're pulling that bar in towards your hips. So every time the bar touches you, it's not touching your stomach midline up, it's touching the hips.